You, for Skyline, you kind of wear multiple hats. You work on the design side, you work on the product uh, distribution and sales side, and you have the East Coast market. And you've taught design classes for a number of years at Harrington. How do you see this kind of a trip helping someone who aspires to be a participant in the interior design community or the interior design profession today?
Mhm. Well, I think that what going to Rome and the different places that we are going to offers an interior design student or anybody interested in deep understandings of what we're looking at is um, you can trace the foundations of so many architectural elements and principles and uses of materials that make up practices that still go on today. And you can see where they started, and you can see how they evolved, and you can really get a sense of how they're mastered, and they're mastered in such a way that they're still standing
Hmm.
and they're still being used. For example, the Pantheon, which I mentioned earlier, um, became the model for so many financial institutions in terms of what they were going to project as a message of longevity and stability and
Hmm.
power.
Hmm.
And so, what we're going to be seeing is how architecture not only is a place where you go and it's used on a daily basis, but how it is used to communicate a message about a culture and what that culture wants to project in terms of its qualities.
Hmm.
And how, as a designer, understanding those things and studying those things, one becomes more in tune with the elements of design and their power and how you can use them
Yeah.
and manipulate them or turn them into something.
You also have a studio arts background in painting from Northwestern University.
Yeah.
And how do you, since a good chunk of our trip is going to be spent working in sort of a studio context, like almost a portable studio, where we're at these sites drawing and looking and carefully examining and literally tracing those examinations onto paper or manipulating them digitally with a camera and then drawing. How do you see that as important for a young designer today, or as part of an education for a designer today?
Well, I think that what it offers is an opportunity for a much deeper understanding. In anytime you're starting to sketch anything, you really have to pay attention to it and pay attention to the edges and how it moves and what kind of volume it's creating and how is it holding space.
Hmm.
And you're looking at it, you're having to scrutinize it and look at it so much more critically, because your hand needs to be so much more in tune with your eye. And you also have to make much more critical decisions about what do you want to take away from that? How do you want to capture the essence of that which you've decided to draw or sketch? And so it's just a deeper reinforcement of an understanding of a space or an element, an architectural element, or a volume.
Yeah, right.
Part of the opportunity for sketching when we're in those spaces is the opportunity to really gain an understanding of the floor plan and the footprint
Hmm.
of the structures that we're going to be seeing and the interiors,
Hmm.
and really examining that and tying that to the interior space.
And even
Um,
materiality, right? Because I know as we've talked, like the idea of recording a texture through a rubbing versus
mhm,
like a literal
mhm.
visual like drawing of that material.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely. Like there's so many. there's so many opportunities to capture um, different components to these structures, and even even doing a color study on. I don't even want to think about. I mean, the amount of the variation in marble tones that we're going to be seeing
Wow.
is is a study in and of itself. And so, what's actually very exciting is there's so many different paths that a student could take in terms of how and what they would like to examine
Hmm.
on this trip because it offers so many avenues.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. It's
Yeah.
really exciting.
We're going to be working during the day, but in the evenings, and there will be some free time to really
Hmm.
sort of partake of Roman life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what are we going to do? Like, what do Romans do at night? What will our evenings be like?
Romans hang out. They they eat outside because there's a lot of restaurants and cafes. They all have outdoor seating, so people eat out. They eat out late,
Hmm.
and they enjoy, conversation and hanging out and in some of the public spaces, like by the Spanish Steps, which is this amazing huge public space. People will, you know, guys will have their guitars, they'll be playing songs, they'll be singing, they'll be just relaxing and having a good time. And there's a just a sense of community. People interact on the street. It's almost like, when you're in New York, you can't be on an island when you're in New York
Right,
because
right.
there's so many people there, and
Yeah,
and Rome is on the street.
yeah.
It's all on the street. People are going, just they go for a walk.
Hmm.
They go for a walk and they eat an ice cream, and so there's just, you can capture the vibe, and we're going to be there in summer, which means the day is going to be really long, and the sun's going to be up well into the early evening hours, and so there'll be a really nice energy there.
Now, Romans are friendly?
They are. They are. They're very friendly. They'll engage you in conversation. They're not abrupt or anything, and they're warm. And if you know any Italian and use it, they'll be more than gracious and tell you that it's, you speak beautiful Italian, and they're open. They're very warm and very open, and they talk with their hands, and they're very passionate.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, as an interior architecture program, our population is really similar to Harrington in the sense that we are usually heavy on the female percentage of students. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and there's all those rumors about Italian guys. Any thoughts on that?
Well, um, yes. Italian guys are very fond of American girls. There's no doubt about that. And they're very charming, and they're very chatty, and very complimentary. And you always have to sort of figure out, just if you want to say no, you say no. But you need to say no when you don't want a guy to sort of keep pursuing you, because they're very persistent. Rome is not a dangerous place, though. I don't want to give the wrong impression.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
However, typical social interactions in Rome, people travel in groups. You've got girls that travel in groups, guys that travel in groups, and sometimes they travel together, but you're rarely ever going to see a single female late at night by herself in Rome.
I
It's
see.
just it's not typical. Italian girls, you're not going to see
Hmm.
them
Hmm.
traveling that way. It's called the Eternal City, and it's called that for a reason. There's very few places that you can go where you can get amazing markers in art history and architectural history for 2,000 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Up to some brilliant work that's been done even within the last 5 years by Richard Meyer or Zaha Hadid,
Mhm.
that speaks and has a conversation with things that were done in the past. But it's unique like no other city in what it offers, from just brilliant masterpieces all in one place. I mean, we haven't even talked about Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel,
Mhm.
which is part of what we're planning on seeing, because it's a once in a it's there's nothing like it. It's extraordinary,
Mhm.
and so, um, I'm just really excited, about sharing this, with students of art and interior design.
Like students will be applying soon, and if they have any
Mhm.
questions or thoughts, or if they were curious about anything that they heard us talk about today,
Yeah,
is there a way they can reach you, or should they feel
absolutely.
comfortable contacting you, or?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. If anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy. They can reach me through my Gmail account, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that I might have, or if they're curious about something, or whatever it might be. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for taking time tonight. And one final question. I know there's 1,000 movies on Netflix that you could like watch if you were thinking about like Rome. There's good ones, there's classical ones, there's some schmaltzy
Right.
ones. Any favorites?
Well, Um, favorites not Roman Holiday is a great movie with Audrey Hepburn if you like classic black and white movies.
Uh-huh.
And then there was that recent one, When in Rome,
Yeah.
that was also, sort of a little travelogue, if you will, as well. And HBO did that Rome series, which was pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
it was. Very sexy, but very amazing.
Right, right. Oh, and years ago, Jim Jarmusch made this movie called Night on Earth,
Hmm.
um, which was one of the stories. There's five stories, and one of the stories is this crazy cab driver in Rome, and it's really
Oh,
goofy.
I've heard of that one, but I haven't seen that one.
Yeah,
That one's good,
yeah,
huh?
yeah. There's one segment. It's hysterical and bizarre, but he drives around Rome. He drives around Rome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking time tonight,
My pleasure.
and we'll hopefully see you certainly in Rome, if not before.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, ciao, as they say, right?
Yeah, ciao, buonanotte.
Buonanotte. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.